just so that way that Shauna can listen if she'd like to, and then
Yeah.
I will talk to you in Joni's pictures. Good morning, Joni.
Hi, Joni.
Hey there. You're on mute. I don't know if you knew that. There she is.
Oh my gosh, your puppy.
Hearing your voices. He's getting so big, he's kind of hard to hold in my lap anymore.
Oh.
I did hit record because Shauna's sick. Shireen will be here, but she's just running a couple minutes late. We're going to do a quick check-in, and then we're going to talk about the universal law of thinking today. So
Your hair looks so cute. It's
thank you.
It's given who's the it's funny, I can't think of it right now. Marilyn Monroe.
Oh,
even Marilyn Monroe vibes today. Your pink silky and your hair's flipped.
Well, it was, you can
Sexy,
always
sexy.
tell when it's the second or third day without shampooing my hair, except this side's doing something funky, so it might go behind my ear. Because I tend to curl it. So needless to say, and I just got it cut. So okay, I'll share with you guys something and then we'll do a check-in. Did I hit record? Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Okay, so I have this gal, she's like so cute. She's totally looking out for me, and she's like, I meet all these people, I'm gonna set you up. So she met this guy, and I don't know exactly what she told him, but he was nervous about like meeting someone through her too, and he's really good looking.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Because I don't know if it was you, Joni, that I was talking to, but I was talking about how dating, I'm realizing that I have unrealistic expectation that I want 55 to 65-year-old men to look like they're 35. That's just, they're not all looking like McDreamy out there, right? So anyway, so let's do a quick check-in. Chantel, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It kind of like did some weird like noises. So tell us how you're doing, and then we'll go to Joni.
Sure. I'm doing pretty well today. We are set to leave tomorrow for our adventure.
How's that going?
It's going pretty well. Like, I'm working the last couple of days, so John's really been taking a lead on things, and the boys are kind of sort of helping, kind of sort of.
And how's Vaughn? You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. So how's Vaughn doing with this? Because I know originally he really didn't want to go.
Yeah, we had a really good family therapy session on Friday, and spent some time talking about it over the weekend too. So I think we're in a good place. We've decided to, like, he's gonna come with us for the first 3 weeks for sure. And then he is working on a plan, so he has to initiate this and do it himself, to speak with his grandmother and see if he wants to come back after 3 weeks, if he could stay there for a little bit. So that is feeling good to everybody.
Good.
Yeah.
Anything making you nervous about or Joni, go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to ask if she could remind me, is he going to public school, or is he homeschooling anyway?
Yeah, he's doing like the self-directed schooling right now.
Yeah. And so is he a junior?
I'm not sure what that means. He's in grade 11.
Yeah, grade 11.
Yeah, that's what that means. Sorry. That's funny. The differences you don't realize.
Funny. I know. So in his grade, we would call it just like high school. So I always get mixed up between, like, when people say sophomore and junior, and those, I don't really know what they mean. I have to Google it first.
That's awesome. That's funny. Cool.
But yeah, I think it's a good plan. everyone's feeling kind of good. We were able to really like talk about some stuff and a few little like maybe not little emotional breakthroughs on that. And that's been good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I
yeah, it's
can't
going
wait.
okay. I'm a little bit tired. You asked if I was nervous. I don't think well, I mean, yes, I am, and not overwhelmingly so. I think I'm just a little tired because there's just like lots of little last minute things to do, and uh, yeah, and my mind is pretty full, so just kind of holding space for that, knowing it's temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good thought too, as far as like when we can remind ourselves that it's temporary and that this is not a way of life, it's just like what happens. Then what's cool about that is as you pick up and move, each time you move, you'll start to identify what are some of the things that create tiredness in me or suck my energy, and then you'll be able to plan for that or make changes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, great
It's a
observation.
learning.
Oh. Hey, Shireen. Joni, do a check-in. And Shireen, we're doing check-ins. Oh, for some reason, Siri thought I was talking to her.
She's geeky.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk about the law of thinking. So Joni, where are you? What are you up to?
Well, yesterday I had two sick kids and one went to school today, but she just texted me and said she needs me to come pick her up. So and that's where I am with that. I think we're all a little under the weather, but there's just kind of some, I think, weird energy happening in our family. So it's I think they just want to be, I think they think I'm home. I have to go to my office later today, but I was home most of yesterday, and um yeah, I'm sad. In general, I have a sad heart, so yeah, we had a hard weekend.
Yeah.
um I don't know. I think I've been waiting for a miracle that's not showing up fast enough. Whatever that means. um I don't know. I'm not trying to be cryptic. I kind of sound like I'm being cryptic, but yeah, I just don't know how to do this life with my husband anymore, so it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because we're not able to have the experiences that we want and feel the way we want. So it's hard.
And when you say we, are you saying you and the kids?
Yeah. There was some really like just instances that I can't even explain that we know we're just doing a check-in and I'm kind of a coach in this, so it's kind of not my place to be just going on. But just stuff that I don't agree with and was really hard and unsafe. So it was yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
That's a lot for your heart to process too, right? Well, we're here for you. I'm here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sending you lots of love.
I'll take it all.
Quickly, in abundance, yes.
Shireen, your turn.
Well, much lighter, but we have we're in the midst of changing our property management software, which I do know will be good on the backside. It's never fun. It's something I've wanted to do for 5 years, and there's never a day I wake up and go, yes, let's do it right now. So today it's just we're in that middle ground where neither system is fully operational, and had a double booking and an upset regular client, and and trying to get everybody circled back. So I was thinking about it before so that's why I was like, I just need to take a shower. Like I cannot take this call in my PJs with my crazy hair, no bra. Like I need to just level up a little bit, which was the shower. But my hair
I
is
kind
not
of feel
done
like you're
because
calling me out.
huh? It's like, you do you.
I'm
But it
just
was like
kidding.
I just needed to like
It was
get
like you
a
needed to
different.
wash off the
Yeah,
chaos.
I just needed to get out. Like it just hit me faster than I was anticipating this morning. And so it got me out of my routine. And so I was just like, what will it take to kind of reset? And we've talked about this as a group and individually too. Like I can feel when I'm like that road goes nowhere good if I keep spinning. But I didn't take the time to dry my hair, but I put no products because I can at least wet it after this call, like, but I was just like, I need clothes, I need a bra, I need a clean body. Woo! And then my girls, and we'll get reset.
There you
So
go.
thank you. I'm grateful to have this time with y'all.
You know, Shireen, it's interesting because I teach this thing called Theory U, and it talks about how it's a U, and when you're in the U, when you're going down, something's dying, right? And there's a whole lot more complexity to it, but this is just the basic. And then you're in this presencing state, this in between state, right? Where neither one, like the old system isn't working right, the new hasn't crystallized and completely come through, and then things are born and it comes
Yeah.
through, crystallizes. But that presencing can be so uncomfortable at times if we allow it to. And I love the physical, almost like stomping your foot that Chantel
Yeah. Yeah.
name, like that physical. And I do that too. That's why I have an easy button. That's why sometimes you'll see me do this, or I'll take my glasses off and put them back on, right? Like there's things that if we can, I, whether they're hacks or not, I don't care. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, it's just a physical thing that reminds us that we are just that powerful to be able to shift the view of looking up the hill at what we just lost, or looking up the hill of like, oh, cool, this is starting to come to fruition, right?
Yeah, and to use your U example, I felt
Mhm.
like I was diving towards a V, like I was
Yeah.
skipping U, and I was going to go to like a sharp crash, very little presence, and undetermined whether I was going to come back up the backside. So it's like if you don't actively
Yeah.
work on this, your your day is going to be shot. And then I have all these little sayings, that kind of help me. And a goldfish grows to the size of its pond
Good thing.
is
Yeah.
one. And so I was like, you're going to grow to whatever pond you create. So if you create a chaos pond, you're going to just grow to whatever size that pond allows. And if you don't want that, make a different choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because all of you, the things that we're going to talk about today with the law of thinking, and the law of thinking, the reason it's the last law in the booklet is because it really, to me, kind of encompasses, they all intertwine, right? So I hate like it's how it's linear. I need to come up with some kind of design where it's like a tree and they all like kind of intertwine together, right? But in this law of thinking, it almost like kind of just puts an arm around it and wraps it up, because what it says is, if all conditions are the result of our actions, right? So the law of cause and effect, and all actions are the outcome or the fruit of our ideas, the law of vibration and the law of attraction, then our ideas must determine the conditions in our daily lives. So
Wait,
what,
say that the last thing, the
yep,
idea.
I'll say it again. Yep. So if the conditions are the result of our actions and all the actions are the outcomes of our ideas, then our ideas must determine the conditions of our daily life. That's where we were talking about the power of choosing to, like shifting that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we think in our mind grows. We've talked about that, a lot, whatever you focus on. But the focus, what I love about this is it goes further than focus, because we can be focused on something, but in the background have noise happening, right? And I don't know if everybody on this call knows this, and I'm getting to the point where I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to go out and like announce it on social media because right now people are so hateful. I just don't even want to hear their comments. But I made a decision to do something that I don't love putting synthetic things in my body. And as Joni knows, I even hate taking pills. And so I decided to do semaglutide to help me lose weight because no matter what I was doing, nothing was working. And the biggest thing that I noticed was how much noise food took up in my mind, right? Like I had all this food noise, all this like, what am I going to eat next? Or I ate the brownie and now I'm beating myself up. Like just all this, there's no other way to describe it. And unless you've experienced, and I'm not saying this exact thing, but like unless you've experienced that where you heard that noise. And the thing is we all have noise that goes on, right? We all have these underlying frequencies of thoughts that are in our subconscious that the more and more we bring it to the conscious, then we're able to let it go. And so when we talk about what you focus on gets bigger, that is true. But whatever we think in our minds also grows. And that's why congratulations to all of you for continuing to do the work of uncovering what's happening in your subconscious or even in the conscious brain to start working through that to be able to unravel that and let it go, let it dissolve, because that's true freedom. So when you think about what I'm focused on, yes, does get better, bigger, but then we also still have to do the work to unwind. What is that noise that's happening? Like I always think about, and I can always tell when something's off in my body because where I work, and Joni knows this, she has this beautifully sounding noise machine that's like natural noise. And the two counselors at the end of the hall have one that is not natural noise and it makes this like sound, right? That like covers up their like what's being said. You can't hear what's being said. I can't really hear what's being said anyway. But that thing drives me batshit crazy. It's like this underlying white noise that, and I've asked a gazillion times when you guys leave, not only so I know you've left and I can lock myself in, but like turn it off when you leave, right? Because then it's like super quiet in here and all it is static. Like I hate a radio station that like is staticky, right? Like you want to see me crawl the walls, do that.
That's it.
And so I use that as an example because that's exactly what's happening whenever we've got something going on. So like right now in the United States, and I know Chantel, I've had some friends in Canada too talking about this because it's impacting the world. Like all this chaos and fear energy that's happening right now is kind of this underlying white noise machine, right? I was having a conversation this morning with my sisters and about some post that somebody made, and my one sister commented and the other one's like, you can't even comment on their kind of and I'm like, you're doing the same thing. You're dehumanizing people the same way you're just saying that they're doing it. And so it's this underlying, I'm like, I can't partake in this conversation anymore, right? So I like removed myself from the conversation because now I've got this noise happening in my brain that's creating a little bit bigger noise than it was last night. Does that make sense? So what I'm finding is whatever we think in our minds grows. Like I'm having to be really, really mindful about thinking about who am I hanging around? What am I ingesting? What's my environment like? Like I was looking around and you all can tell because I was scrolling and you've gotten to like reels in the last couple of days, how bored I've been because I just haven't had the energy to do anything, right? And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, wow, like I picked up my house cleaner came, I picked up all the toys, and within a day, it's like a toddler, right? Like I have shit everywhere, like all these toys. Then I'm like, oh, I could fix that. I can bring out 3 toys, right? And get a bin for the rest of the toys. So then it allowed me to get out of this like chaos and like come up with some type of solution. So I think about the fact that right now there is a lot of chaos energy. And so whatever you can do too, I was telling my old coach, I had dinner at her house the other night and we were talking about, I don't know what it is with trees for me, but I felt like all the collective energy was this like big tree and that it's taking a lot of my energy not to get sucked into the jungle, right? Like no, I don't want to be sucked into it. And so just thinking about that, if you can start to uncover some things, like Chantel, you were even saying, I'm tired. And so like even thinking about what are those things and it's only temporary, then your mind thinks something different versus, oh, this is all the time, right? So enough pontification on that. But then we attract only what we think or create. So it's that law of attraction and law of cause and effect. So what I'm thinking is then what I create, right? So like I'll give you an example, and I might have told you this before, but my friend Wendy, who I'm in a mastermind myself with, she was so funny. We were on some call and there were a couple of people on this call that are friends of mine that kind of made some negative derogatory comments about men because we were talking about like the feminine energy and leadership right now. And so later she called me and she said, Debbie, I want to invite you in. She said, you always say that. So I'm going to invite you in to thinking about the fact that you want to call in a male romantic human love relationship, but you're hanging out with women that hate men. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, right? Like another protection mechanism for me. And it's not that I hang out with everybody that doesn't like men, but those two in particular, I was like, that is energy I don't necessarily want to be around right now or have a lot of consistent conversation with, right? So that's what I'm talking about, thinking about the mind, because the mind is in perpetual operation and it works both ways, right? The law of polarity. When we dwell on what's good, this is the whole gratitude journal thing, right? Like what we focus on gets bigger. When we dwell upon that which is good and harvest the good in every situation, then it comes to pass. And that's kind of like that video with Peter Crone. Like if I'm looking for evidence for something, I'm going to find it. And so it depends on, and that's the E2 book. So it depends on what energy do I want to bring into my life, right? So what your mind holds within itself takes its form in the outside world. The sickness. I kept saying I'm not available to be sick, but in the back of my mind, I thought, oh shit, I'm going to get sick because there's people sick all over the place. My grandson had 11 kids out of just his classroom that were sick. I'm going to get sick because I've been around them, right? Like this is what was playing in the back of my head. And sure as shit, I got sick. Like I brought that on myself. I'm not saying that in judgment, but I brought it on myself. So the mind is always working, as we all know, because all of us have had mornings where we wake up in the middle of the night, right? Then I want to talk about the other two, and then I'm going to open it up to some dialogue. Now, clarity is what's important here. And Shauna was talking about how, she wanted to get really clear on defining success for herself, something you guys talked about in Mastermind in the last call. And clear thinking clarifies the mind. And this is where within the mind too, it's important to uncover what the lie is because we can't get clarity. So anytime you're confused, there is something in there that's an untruth. Because when we have the truth, it's clear. Now, the caveat to that is sometimes we have clarity, but we don't trust ourselves. So then we act in confusion and ask other people for their opinions, ask for idea, and it's okay to ask for other people's opinions, but we have to know, and that's what today's video was about, right? With Brene Brown, we have to understand and be aware of who we are and be able to be clear. So clear thinking clarifies the mind, and the more you trust yourself, the clearer your thinking becomes. And so then clarity also manifests or moves, advances both the metaphysical and the physical. It advances the material and spiritual planes in our lives. Like when you're clear, if you think about it, I want you to think about a time, all three of you, that you were very clear on something and things moved very quickly, almost to the point where it was uncomfortable. Right? I remember being very clear that I wanted other coaches to help and add value to the mastermind. And all of a sudden I have 4 people asking me to coach. I was like, whoa, that's all I had to do is put my order out to the waitress or waiter. I'm ready, right? Let's make him a really cute 35-year-old, as a matter of fact, with hair. No, add some levity. So the mind is working all the time, being really clear about what you want. And that's why we spend so much time, particularly at the beginning of this, thinking about what we want. And then energy and power. So we're constantly thinking, and we can change our thoughts. We're that powerful, but we cannot stop thinking. We can shift the way we think. That's how powerful we are. So because of this, energy is being exchanged in our thoughts. So if you find yourself tired, some of it may be because you can't sleep because your thinking doesn't shut down, right? If our thoughts are aimless, we are misdirecting our energy. And all of this, by the way, is on the last page of the universal laws. Directing our power of thinking into constructive channels of expression is powerful, and it creates the outward expression or form. So what this is saying is that when we're clear and we direct our power of thinking into those constructive channels, we take the metaphysical and move it into form. We move it into the physical. It could be that it's already in the physical form and we just want to expand it as well. So going through all of this, I know it's a lot. I'm just going to open it up to, like, what does this mean to you? What are some thoughts that hit you, or things that, as I was talking in my monologue about the law of thinking?
This is why I am having such a hard time with where I am right now, because in some place, like, I truly believe we make this reality, right?
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, why the fuck am I creating this? And how am I doing it? Like, how can I not change that? You know? Like,
Yeah.
that's
And
my honest feeling. And so it's hard. It keeps me stuck because it's like, well,
yeah. And Joni, sometimes I can only speak from my own, right? Because my own experience. What I found is that, yes, I was creating it because I was tolerating moving down or moving to his energy level and his vibration versus expanding and allowing my own vibration to happen. Honest, that's the only way that I reconciled that with, like, how did I, and I'm not saying leave or stay, but like
right.
that was the only way I was able to reconcile. Like, if the law of cause and effect happens, yes, I'm in this effect right now because I'm allowing myself to change my energy, similar to my son, where I'm not making myself smaller, but I'm containing my energy differently. And I'm protecting myself when I do that. So when I look at the snow globe, when I show up in this like golden energy, I do have a semi-permeable or a permeable kind of thing there, but I'm allowing what I want to come into that, but allowing myself to show up in a different energy. Shireen, Chantel, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I want to. So my immediate thought was along the lines of Joni, because similar thing with this past year, it's like, it's twofold. It's like, why would I create this? And then it's also like exhausting and like a lonely feeling, because it's like I'm doing it, like, and so, and it can show up for me, with weight or with the business or with, any number of things,
Yeah.
and then and I don't know, like Joni and I did some work, like it's all about me, and there's like relief in that, like, oh, it's all about me. And then there's some like real, like I said, loneliness or sadness, and it's
And
all about
Shireen, what I've found too is that, yes, and we have to be careful not to go into guilt and shame, because what happens is, yes, the law of cause and effect holds true, but there's all that space between the metaphysical and the physical form that fucks with us. Right. And I'm sorry I'm using that one. I use that word all the time,
but
but
then I
like,
hear it, that, and I believe it, like, but then we have choice.
we do, but sometimes our subconscious thoughts hold us in a pattern because we believe that to be true. And because we believe it to be true, there's evidence that comes into our evidence bank to prove it. right? Because we're looking through that filter. And that's why this work that we're doing is so important, because it allows for you to start untangling some of those things that are holding you in a pattern that you're not even aware of. So yes, it's a cause and effect, but you're not even aware of some of that underlying noise that's happening. And so awareness is the first step, then healing, and then changing the narrative or dissolving the narrative, right? To create freedom.
Mhm.
Chantel, were you going to say something?
I mean, just as you were talking, it just it got me thinking about the immensity of this work, like the immensity of it and the simplicity at the same time. Or at least that's my interpretation of it. It's like, oh, well, I'm thinking all the time, and therefore I have the option to kind of just like think by default and just allow my brain to do its thing with its current paradigm and its subconscious beliefs. Or I can practice being really intentional and really aware and really mindful. And maybe I'm doing both at the same time. So it's like simple and it's immense at the same
Yeah.
time.
Simple and complex at the same time. And usually the complexity comes because there's an attachment to something. It could be
Yeah,
could be love, could be an
totally.
attachment to how it makes us feel, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I think I believe it's the attachment to that. Yeah, the paradigm that I'm currently in and what that represents to me.
yeah.
So all of those things are like identity and um yeah, so love all the I think it is.
So it's somewhat of a good practice. Like if you, like all of you are mentioning some things here, if you think about, like, don't go into the, like I did this for a while, and my coach Amira at the time said, quit guilting and shaming your guilt and shame, right? Like you're layering,
Mhm.
where it's just more of having the realization that, okay, law of cause and effect is true. Sometimes the cause is unknown. We don't have awareness of it yet, right? Then the awareness comes to mind, and we might have a deep knowing somewhere that, oh, something's off. I need to look at this. I want to uncover. Please help me understand what's happening, right? But until we can uncover that, and if we have a belief or a thought, really taking a look at that and saying, is that a truth? Is it creating peace or chaos in my life? And understanding that we're all in this divine oneness. The collective energy and relationship energy with clients, with spouses, with friends, it does impact. And that's where also we have choice, right? That's where I was saying I was being really mindful and like trying not to read my sister's DMs. And then of course, when they put it on text, I get sucked into it. So, but like really thinking about those things. And it does feel lonely at times when, if you think you're in it on your own. That's where, like, this group, we are not in it alone. We're made for community.
Mhm.
And so we have to be vulnerable enough to share, like you guys have been sharing on these calls, to say, I don't want to be in this spot anymore. And then it's the bravery of stepping across the line that looks like it's the Grand Canyon and realizing, what am I attached to? Like, that's what I'm learning from this book, Letting Go, is that any fear, any chaos, any, like, there's something I'm attached to.
And when you say that, so I don't know how to describe it, but it's not like the attachment has to go away, or like, but it's the
Right.
knowing of it. So in that example of that property owner that was really difficult, it wasn't, I wanted the property in our portfolio because revenue wise, it was a good option for us. But it was only when I got really comfortable with letting it go. Like
Yeah.
then I don't know how to describe it, but y'all understand it. It's like only then could I see
Mhm.
you know, and it wasn't, and so I still went through paths of how to keep it, but not the same way when I was like fearful
Yeah.
of losing it,
Yes.
you
Because
know.
imagine that this kumquat is an egg. It's even shaped like an
It
egg.
does look like an egg.
This one's a little soft, so I'm a little nervous about what I'm about to do. But if you think about when I let it go, it has the opportunity to be what it is, right? And it's going to
Yeah.
still end up in my mouth and taste good. If I squeeze it and this is an egg, what happens?
It ruptures.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't know what happens because I've never done that, but
as
it
a
could be
past
perfectly balanced and nothing happens. I don't know.
as a past youth pastor, let me tell you, the shell breaks, right?
Okay.
And you get gooey stuff everywhere, right? So you choke it. When we hang on so tight, we choke it, and it doesn't allow whatever it is that we want to take shape because we're attached to being right. We're attached to wanting something to go the way we want it to go. We're attached to a vision of how we think it should go. There's some kind of expectation
Mhm.
in that, right?
And the way
So
it was
timeless.
explained to me first, like it was explained to me like to truly, it was in the realm of like to truly know love, you have to be willing to let go of love. And it was in a relationship, marriage type situation. I was like, that is fucked up. Like, that's got to be wrong. But now I could see through this house example of like, no, it doesn't mean I would want to lose my spouse or my loved one or, you know, somebody that's important to me. But by the holding on to them,
Mhm.
I never really have them. And the only way to truly have them is, you know, or to be with them and to experience love of that level is to have this,
Yeah.
you know,
There,
new state of
there
being.
used to be a saying when I was a kid. I want to say it was maybe back in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe late 70s, that was if you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, then
Yeah.
it's never meant to be, right? Like, and I, as cheesy and corny as that sounds, I believe that, right?
Mhm,
And it's that law of attraction thing, and that's the law of sacrifice. Sometimes we let go and things do leave, and that's the fear. We're
mhm.
attached to this thought that if I let go of something, I'm going to be abandoned. I'm not loved. It's that core wound thing, right? When in fact, and that's kind of what Brene Brown was saying too. And I loved that, where she's like, I know who I am, and I'm not willing to give up on who I am. Like, I'm not willing to give away myself by chameleoning to someone else. It doesn't mean that you still won't have really good relationship. And as a matter of fact, the ones that I've let go of that have stuck, I have a better relationship with.
I think that was kind of the point of it too, you know, of all
Yeah.
those.
Now, some of it, I have a better relationship with my ex-husband because I'm not dealing with him 24/7, right? But small spurts. But
Yeah.
Chantel, were you going to say something earlier? Sometimes your phone, I can't tell if you're trying to speak or if it was just some static or something.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's a lot of it is just my empathy sounds like, oh yeah,
Okay.
uh
Okay.
but yes, I definitely the message really resonates, I think, especially with regards to the relationship we unfolding our relationship with Vaughn lately. And I think you said about the egg thing, like if we let go, if we're willing to let go, um, it allows it to be what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Or paraphrasing. But yeah, essentially like that that's been a big kind of awareness and a very important practice in that relationship right now. And I think only when I came to that piece where I could say, hey, yeah, like I can let go, and letting go doesn't mean not caring, but let go of, you know, the expectations and all the stuff that I'm holding for him. Only then can we start to dialogue and kind of work through this part.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I'm going to show you something. I don't necessarily love this graph, but I went out to Chat GPT and I said, give me a graph, right, between the relationship between beliefs, thoughts, emotion, actions, and habits. I don't love this chart, but I think and I don't necessarily agree that habits shape our beliefs, although they can. But if you want to change a habit, it goes back to my little brain thing. You have to look at the belief because our belief does
Mhm.
influence our thought. And so if we're having chaos thoughts, or we're having thoughts about something, or we don't belong, or I'm not loved, or this is happening, I suck, whatever, we have to go back and say, what do I believe about myself? And where did that belief start? And that's where that unwinding into your past. And, I'm huge. And Chantel, you're in this profession. I'm huge on saying a lot of times when I coach people, they end up with counselors too, because unwrapping some of this stuff, right? Unwinding into past of what happened and where we felt unsafe and where things happened that created a belief that then permeates or influences our thoughts. And those thoughts then help create the emotion, the feeling. And then the body part's not in here, right? But like our body usually will tell us what's happening with this, and our emotions then drive our actions. And the actions then reinforce the habits or create the habits that we have, right? So it's powerful, and they all intertwined with each other. But when when you're having a thought and you're in chaos, you're not in heaven anymore, it's not clear, it's important to unwind. Okay, why do I do what I do with this? And then if that's a habit or an action that I take, then what emotion comes up for me if I don't do this? Right? Because if I'm trying to eliminate something, or if I'm trying to create something, right? Like that's that big juicy goal. I think about like, why is it that I had to create a goal that then helps me brush my teeth every night, right? Like, and what happens when I'm not brushing my teeth? What's the old belief pattern that I'm not, and that sounds kind of silly that it's, like a surface level kind of thing, but it's about taking care of myself. And so then what's the belief in that? Well, potentially I'm not, it's better to take care of other people before myself, right? Like that's where I end up in danger zone sometimes, right? Like I'll take care of other people and not myself. So once I unwind that, I'm like, oh yeah, there it is, showing up in a different way, right?
Another thing, Debbie, about the law of thinking that
Yeah.
that I find helpful is to think about the types of questions that I'm asking myself.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about taking that step across something that feels like a Grand Canyon, I was thinking in my head, like for me, when I ask like how questions and why questions, I feel like I'm trying to cross the Grand Canyon with a twig.
Yeah.
Like they don't give me high vibe answers. I feel stuck and insecure in it. And when I change to asking myself more like what based questions, sometimes who based questions, then I feel like I'm trying to cross that Grand Canyon with like something a little more sturdy.
Yeah. I love that. Like the what would it take question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, Chantel. You're exactly right. And I sometimes fall into that, right? That's where my critical parent comes out, where I'll be like, how does this work? Why is this? And that comes across, it's judgment. So I love that. Yeah, thank you for that. So the what would it take? What are some other questions that might be beneficial to ask instead of how or why?
Yeah. I like to ask like what's the next step or what's the lesson here?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
what's
if that was a rhetorical question, but I'm like, these are the ones I like to ask. Who would I need to be to
ooh,
do
I love that one.
X, Y,
Yeah.
Z, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if I'm like journaling because I do like to write a lot, and if I'm journaling and I'm noticing like this pattern of my thinking, that's it's just not really it's just not helping me. I'll like pause and then I'll just write a question that's just like what or who and just kind of see how that evolves in the thinking and the writing differently.
Yeah, or even like thinking in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What I do sometimes is, what if this is the best thing ever?
Mm-hmm.
Be
Mm-hmm.
because you can have 10, 15, 20 stories around. Yeah.
I like to say, if I had a magic wand, how would this look differently? Like what would be different about this situation?
Mm-hmm.
Those are awesome. So I want to ask, and I'd like for each of you to share, and I know Joni, you're in the car, so if it doesn't work out for you, what are the 6 other solutions? I love that.
Mm.
I want you to think about what is one thing, we're going to look at both sides of the poll here. I want to uncover what is one thing that maybe came to you that you thought, ooh, I'm not in heaven here. There's a little bit of chaos or fear or thought around this that I want to dig into and ask the what questions to get to what might be the belief that I have around this or the untruth that's in this. And the opposite as well, and we'll end on that one. So let's start with this one first. What is maybe something that came up for you as we were talking about this that, oh, I want to kind of investigate that a little bit more? Or was there?
The first thing that came up for me, and it was when you first opened the dialogue, it's like, why can't I bring in new properties?
Mm.
You can see how I worded that. That's that's what's in my head all the time.
So I might invite you to,
Like it seems like the easiest, most obvious solution. And then why can't I? And then like even this new 2 properties that I brought in, we have literally had 2 inquiries, 0 bookings in 45 days. Like I've never seen that happen on a prime property in a great location. It's beautiful.
yeah. And Shireen, I might invite you into using Chantel's suggestion and say, what might be stopping me from signing new properties versus why? What can I do to bring in more properties?
Mhm.
Or Joni's even
And
saying,
this is where I do, and then I get in this little mind trip. Proper, apparently I can't spell properties. That's part of my problem. So then I go, okay, subconsciously, do I not want to do this? Which we've had that discussion before. And then I'm like, no, I do like this. I just want it to be easier. And then
try
it just
this
goes
on
in
for
this
size.
circle. And then I feel like, and you're creating this all.
Try this on for size.
Yeah.
I'm Shireen, and I'm not at the same level of these people that own these amazing properties that I'm going to service. And oh shit, this guy just got out with a pair of cargo shorts and a marijuana t-shirt on. Right? Like I honestly, like what's keeping you at a ceiling? It's kind of like the flea experiment. Fleas, when you put fleas in a cup, they jump out. If you put fleas in a cup and put saran wrap on it, they go and they hit the saran wrap or goldfish bowl,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? And then you take the saran wrap off and they just keep bouncing to the top. So we create these patterns of thinking of ourselves, which I think,
Mm.
Shireen, try this on for size, and I would invite you to kind of journal about this. I think, and I'm projecting a little, but has been also for me how I take care of myself, my weight, all of these things are kind of attached to that thought of, am I good enough? Is there something wrong with me or am I whole?
And then, so certainly, yes, and I even laughed when you started, so thank you for the mirror. And then I do have moments like where I do know I'm really good. Like people, um, like for example, at Falling Leaves, which is a stunningly beautiful property, we did not get the Pepsi commercial, but the producer from LA was kind of like, I wanted to work with you almost more than I even cared about the property, and so I do get feedback like that.
So
Um,
here's the cool thing. What would it take? So you stay in contact with that person. So the next time they want to shoot a commercial, he calls you and says, Shireen, what kind of properties do you have? Here's what we're looking for.
mhm. Stay in touch with Larry.
Yeah. Chantel, what about you? What is something that hit for you? And then, because I want to make it around too to the positive, like something that was like, oh, I've changed this, whatever.
Sure. Yeah, just the tiredness
Mm,
that I'm experiencing. So just kind of check in with myself, like what is that cause there? And um yeah, just noticing some patterns. So I think for me already I'm like, okay, yeah, I just it'd be really helpful to write down the things that are in my brain and get them out of my brain and create a little bit of a list instead of holding it all in my head, which is
okay.
draining a lot of my energy, I think, right now, because I'm trying to juggle it all and not forget it.
Ah, and you know what, Chantal? I'm going to share a hack with you.
Mhm.
I have a, do you have an Apple phone?
I do.
So there's a Google Keep app that
Google
provides
Keep.
this. Yep. Called
Oh,
Google Keep. I don't know if you can see that on my phone.
yeah.
And I have all sorts of notes in there. I have one for my bills
Oh, yeah.
because I pay bills for my HOA. I pay some bills for our group here that rents the space, and I pay my personal bills and my work bills. And I have a list, even the ones that automatically withdraw, because I find that it's too much for me to hold in my brain. And so I use
Mhm.
little buckets. I kind of think of them as buckets, and you can color code them and all sorts of stuff. I even have like
Mm.
to-dos in there. I have oh, just all sorts of stuff in here. And what I found, and it creates a little checklist and I can just check it off. And I would almost invite you into creating something like that, because every time you pick up and move, you will find there will be similar things that you have to do. And so then your checklist is already there. All you have to do is
Mhm.
uncheck the boxes and it all appears.
Cool. Google Keep. Okay. Downloading it right now.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because
Thank you.
then that takes some of the exhaustion, right? I remember too a habit that I used to be in, and my friend Joni asked me one time, she goes, "Is that just a habit that you say you're tired, or are you really tired?" I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
good observation. Joni, I don't know if you're in a spot where you can chat, but anything pop for you?
Sorry, I can't even remember the original question now, but I did have a thing too about when we ask questions that just
Yeah.
dropped in for me because I was like, what do we use instead of show me the way, right? But it's like, I think that question doesn't get answered either because you could take 8 paths to the same destination. So if you ask an or question or like come down with, a few solutions and then try to narrow which one would be the best by asking a question like, will I be more prosperous if I choose A or B? Or will I be happier if I choose like whatever your life value intentions are against the thing
Hmm.
instead of like, oh, should I choose path A, B, or C? Well, the answer is going to be yes, because they could all get you to the same point eventually.
Right.
That was just what dropped in for me just now on the answer. And I want to make sure you knew I was just commenting about her goldfish bowl earlier. I wasn't correcting your flea story.
Oh,
I was,
I wasn't taking it that you corrected. I'm just
oh,
like, oh,
okay.
maybe it's a goldfish bowl.
No, no,
That's funny.
I was just saying that because she had used that reference earlier about the goldfish. So it's like it's the goldfish bowl keeping your container.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so what about, is there anything that you can look back and say, oh, I've changed it? Because people like us that are in continuous learning and growth, our critical parent sometimes comes out and we're constantly looking for gaps that we can then correct, right? And so when you think about it, I've seen immense amount of growth in all of you over this last year. And so because I was looking at it, I'm like, I'm kind of sad. We only have like 3 more weeks of these calls. I'm kind of sad. And so when I think about the growth, I'm like, wow. So I want to throw out there, anything pop for you around where you were able to unwind and come to a belief and shift a belief for yourself. And it doesn't have to be that you got the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai, right? Like, because all these beliefs create bigger ripples and all sorts of things. So anything pop for you while we were talking about that? And it's not going to surprise me if you're like, no, let me think about it.
Well, I can comment on like even though my situation hasn't changed much over the last year, or 5 years or 20, but but the amount that I can choose, like I believe now that I can choose that peace and joy most of the time, even within the situation, and I think I have that most of the time.
Mhm.
Well, it's okay to like feel my sadness too, but like in actually trying to just like let myself feel it when I feel it or when I have time to feel it
Yeah,
versus waiting 3 years to let it out in rage.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Chantel or Shireen, anything?
The thing that popped for me was it's more like just an overall thing. It's like like Joni's like I can choose. It's like I can hear, in a way I couldn't hear before. Like even when you say like, "Hi, I'm Shireen Fisher, owner. I'm not up to your like I can hear that now, whereas before I wouldn't have. I can I don't know. I don't know how to like I just hear things different or interpret them, I guess is um when I look back and think of like all the times I was right and like the need to like hold on to right. Um not even really being honestly that aware that I was doing it.
Oh.
To now I go, it honestly doesn't serve me, like who cares? You be right, I'd be right. Anybody can be right. We can all be wrong. That's not even the right phrase to even be using. And so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's
Or
awesome. Shireen.
actually really nice, not kind of nice.
Yeah. Good.
There's
I'm
a
glad.
lot of freedom in that.
Absolutely. Chantel, what about you?
I'll just piggyback after that off of that last thing you said, Shereen, about there's a lot of freedom in that, and I think there's just something about doing this work. So, related to today's awareness, but also the year's worth of work that we've been doing, and that there's a lot of freedom in it, and that
Yeah,
feels like just so awesome and expansive. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
that's great.
And
Thank
I
you.
love the app already. I just put my 2 first buckets, and I just love that they could be color coded.
Yep.
I'm gonna look at that too because I have a spreadsheet I'm using on something and I have this story but I'm not always with my computer and so therefore I can't maintain it. And so this on that quick hold up, I'm like, that's looking similar to what I'm trying to do on my computer.
What I love about it is it has these check marks, so I can feel like I've checked things off the list, or sometimes I'll just take um little notes, right? Like we went to this thing and this guy said, "Oh, you can buy all sorts of Italian food wholesale by going to wholesaleitalianfood.com," right? And so I'll just take little notes too. So sometimes I'm sitting in the airport, ideas for podcasts, right? And then I just make kind of a list. So I just like it
So
because I'm
good.
a list person that likes to check things off. So
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's good because there's like I have a kabillion notes in my phone, but it's just like a bunch of documents and they don't stand out. Whereas I like this bucket idea, or it could be like this is the idea checklist. This is the whatever RV prep checklist, and yeah.
yeah, and I'm with you because I have a lot of notes, like in my notes section, and I use those for different things, but I love this as like a little checklist. So yeah, good. I'm glad that that's helpful. So, okay, my friends, Shireen, you and I need to stick on for a minute.
Yep.
And Chantel, good luck tomorrow. Please share pictures and stories of your adventures. And
Oh my gosh.
have you guys decided? Because I have something I'm mailing to you all, and I thought, oh, I wonder if you're coming this way, or are you going to go bungee jump first?
We're gonna go bungee jump first, so we'll come
Okay.
your way on our way back.
Okay. Well, I might just hold on to what I have then, because you're not going to get all your stuff that's mailed to you anyway, right?
No, yeah, we have the PO box, and we have someone who's gonna check on it maybe like once or twice.
Okay.
But
Well, I'll
yeah,
just
we
hang
will
on
be.
to it, and you'll get your gift then when you come back through.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you, thank you. And I won't be on the call tomorrow because we'll just be in the process of departing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll tape it and Sarah will send it out. We're working on a portal so that you guys
Ooh.
like it won't be done by the end of March, but the goal is to have it in one place because I took your feedback to say it's not always easy to go out to all the different links. So that's been something I've been wanting to do for the last year or two, but it's now coming to fruition. So that's good.
Nice.
Okay,
everyone,
Miss
enjoy your
Martell,
day.
good luck. Safe
Bye.
travels.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.